Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, has returned to the saddle here on Birds 365. Good to see Johnny Mack back in his home studio. Johnny Mack, welcome back, brother. Good to see you back in the saddle. How you doing on this Tuesday morning, brother?
Woo! Yeah, finally got back about 2:30ish. I don't know. When I walked through the door, touchdown, different type of touchdown. I tweeted it. Long day. People trying to get out of New Orleans. That airport is not equipped for the number of people that went through there yesterday. Everything was late. Everything was hour and a half behind just because of the air traffic. So, but made it. It's finally back to some normalcy. Hopefully, we were just talking before the show started. I know everybody wants to celebrate. I just want to get on. All right, let's start talking about free agency. Let's start talking. I mean, all right, we did it. Not we, but you guys did it.
Not me either. I always say that. And I'm like, it's not a we thing. I congratulate the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I can get, well, same here. I had nothing to do with it. And, you know, congratulations. Now let's try to do it again. That's where I am. Like, I don't care about all the celebration stuff.
Yeah, that's
so there's your curmudgeon. You got the other shows for that. We're going to talk about football on this show.
You know, Johnny Mack will always be Johnny Mack, all right? And that's why the great people of Birds 365 love him, all right? Johnny Mack is not ready to go into celebration, but we will do a little bit of a post-op discussion, though, on this was a long journey, John. We talked about every part of it, all the way to get to this point and the ups and downs of the season. And, this was a unique season for this team, and it ended in a Super Bowl, which is still pretty crazy to say. And they did it in such dominating fashion. It almost made everything, just get in, strap in, and enjoy the ride, because they just dominated the modern dynasty.
Yeah, they did.
I mean that's pretty crazy to say with all the questions that we had about the team and some of the things that we talked about leading up to this point, and the passing game and the running game and the way they switched at the bye week. Well, boy, they just had their most dominant season ever as Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, to finish it out, 16 of 17. And, if you think about where they came from, losing 6 of 7 last season, everybody talking, is Nick Sirianni going to get fired? Obviously, you have the scapegoats that you had. And to finish this one, winning 16 of 17. And really, the loss was kind of a fugazi one. Jalen getting hurt 6 minutes in, losing it with 6 seconds left. I mean, quite a run and quite a dominant performance in the Super Bowl. I keep thinking it because the comparisons are made between Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. I thought they were made too early from that perspective, because Tom's longevity, consistency, and all that kind of success. But either way, if you look at, if you put the Eagles Patriots shootout aside, the two teams that beat Tom Brady, both New York Giants team did it with the pass rush and did it with the front four. And then the two teams that beat Patrick Mahomes did it with the pass rush and did it with the front four. In a copycat league, I would say you guys should start copying the right stuff. Nobody will, but it's there for you.
When you say you guys, who do you mean?
The other NFL teams.
Yeah.
You copy all the wrong stuff. You got to start copying the right stuff. That's not a trend. That's the only way you stop a great quarterback. Is to speed him up, get him off his spots. And you just saw it in living color. Now there'll be a bunch of people spiking the football and saying Patrick Mahomes is overrated and blah blah. No, he's not.
Yeah. No.
And you can't play offense in this league if you can't block people. How many times have you heard me say that on the show? Is my mic all right, by the way, Zander?
No, it sounds
some
good.
weird I don't have all my green lights on, so I don't know what's going on there. But
It sounds good.
as long as it sounds good.
Sounds good, brother.
You know, you can't play off. It doesn't matter who you have. If you can't block people, you can't play offense. Man, that's what showed up in the Super Bowl. That front four was just dominant from snap one. They never blitzed. I know people say Zach Bond with 335. A zone blitz is not a blitz. A blitz is an extra rusher. I get it. I'm not going to get into Jody McDonald mechanics. It's called a zone blitz. But if you're rushing four, it's not a blitz. Only when you bring an extra man. Tampa Bay didn't do that in the Super Bowl. They dominated Kansas City for the same reason. They didn't have to. And the Eagles didn't have to. And Milton Williams specifically and Josh Sweat specifically deserve a ton of credit for that consistent pressure. I don't think it was Jalen Carter. Crazy thing is, I thought it was one of Jalen Carter's worst games of the season. And rewatching it, and one of Saquon's worst games of the season. And they destroyed the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, they did.
If that doesn't sum up the dominance, arguably your best defensive player, arguably your best offensive player, had one of their worst performances, and you didn't even notice because who cares?
Pretty incredible stuff, man. We'll dive into some more of that. I do want to talk to you about a little bit about some of the guys. I mean, you mentioned free agency already. We're going to talk about a couple of those guys on the D line. We're going to talk about the more of that defensive line and kind of a credit to Howie Roseman, man, and what he built in this year. If you look back, John, I don't know if there's another GM in the league who would have been able to turn over from Carson Wentz just 4 or 5 short years ago in 2020 and built this roster off of it. You look at the trade he made, look at some of the players they acquired because of that. It's been really impressive for Howie Roseman, and maybe the most impressive, at least from my perspective, is what Howie was able to do. But I will say this, John, how about the number that came out about the amount of viewership, man? 126 million viewers on the Super Bowl, the most watched Super Bowl ever. And John, I know you were at the game, right? So you didn't, maybe you haven't had a chance, or you probably didn't see much of the TV coverage. John, there's no sports league in the world that even comes remotely close to the production and the hype and the buildup and everything that the NFL does, from the whole week to the pre-games to the intros to the celebrities it just feels like that type of event. And I know this might be a nerd thing for me because I like production and I like stuff like that, but no other sport event feels close. And I look at the numbers and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense that many people watch the Super Bowl more so than the World Series or the Stanley Cup Finals or any of the other big events. I mean, the NFL is on top, man, and they're doing a damn good job.
Yeah, they're certainly on top. There's plenty to criticize the NFL for, but I mean, celebrities come to them obviously when you're that popular, and everybody wants to be at the Super Bowl. So they can sit back. It's a
spectacle, John. It really is, man.
Yeah, they can sort of sit back. The production, I'll disagree with you a little bit from the standpoint of, like, there's great, like, I'm a big wrestling fan. Like, WrestleMania is way better produced.
WrestleMania is impressive.
Yeah, way better produced. That's one of my issues. It shouldn't be. The NFL has more money and but they don't have the bells and whistles. I kind of criticize them.
I don't know, but they don't need them.
No, well, they don't. That's part of the reason why, as I said, celebrities come to them. And I'm not trying to compare the magnitude. Now, the World Cup is bigger technically worldwide, but well, it is.
You sound like one of our Europeans in our comments.
Well, it is. No, you're talking about you're talking about a distinctly American sport. This is one of the things when I talk about the NFL going international, and we're getting the first tangent of the week. I mean, it's not like basketball is way more popular worldwide than football, because this is one of my criticisms in the NFL and the over legislation. nobody fucking understands this sport that didn't grow up with it. And half of the people that did don't understand it in this country. So that's part of the problem long term. So I'm not going to give the NFL their flowers. I'll give the Eagles their flowers for dominating. The NFL, yeah, F them.
But they,
do.
you know what they can say back to you is "fuck you, Johnny Mac." 126 million viewers.
Well, even that's fugazi. That now they're bringing in streaming and all that stuff. It's not the number one rated television show of all time in America. And by the way, because again, television ratings for the World Cup destroy the Super Bowl because it's a worldwide thing.
I hate
that's just yeah, but that's just factual, Zander.
No, I know it is. Soccer's huge, obviously, internationally. Yeah.
I mean, in this country, it's not even close. I'm saying it, but this is a distinctly American sport. Not a lot of people play it, and they're trying to open up international markets, as you can see. But yeah, don't give the NFL. The NFL.
I'm giving them credit. I'm sorry, I disagree with you. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but boy, that Super Bowl was fun to watch. Everything that went on, the way they do it, I thought it was incredible. The camera work from Fox, I thought was great. The only thing I didn't like
give the credit to the Eagles. Don't give the credit to the Dark Lord of the fucking Sith or whatever the nerds like.
Credit regardless.
The NFL. The NFL is there's so many things they can do better, but they just again, the product is awful as a whole. I'm not talking about Eagles fans. I'm not trying to. I am upsetting Eagles fans, but I'm talking about the NFL product as a whole is freaking awful compared to what it used to be. Yeah, I'm not giving the NFL anything. Well, they sit
from
back.
From a business perspective, I know why Roger Goodell keeps getting signed, brother.
Well, yeah, his job is to make money, and he does that job very well.
Yes, he does.
And two parts of his job, and that's all. I'll take the hits for all the stupid shit the league does, and he does it actually very well. But the over legislation in the league, I talk about it all the time. The lack of aesthetics in the league, the Sugar Ray Leonard nature. I always say the games you watch 57 minutes of bad football, and it's a close game at the end, and people end up thinking they watched a good football game. What they really watched was a good 2 minutes, or I shouldn't even say good, exciting 2 minutes. Yeah. I'll give the Eagles credit. I'm not giving the NFL credit for anything.
All right, I'll give the NFL more credit than you. Johnny Mac is back, everybody, if you can't tell. I love it. I love it. John, here's something to give the Eagles credit for. All right, 145 postseason points this year. The most points scored in a single postseason in NFL history. They did it in 4 games, and I went and did some digging, and I could dig a little deeper here if I wanted to. I didn't yet, but I will. The Giants had 273 total points on the freaking season. The Eagles had 145 points in 4 postseason games. Pretty impressive number there, J-Mac.
Yeah, this is what I think a lot of people were expecting the entire season from the offensive perspective of things. And it didn't really develop until late. But again, it tells you just got to play. You got to get in the dance and play your best when you're there. And that's what happened with the Eagles. That's what usually happens with Super Bowl champions. You're playing your best at the right time of the season. Whereas you go back to last year, they played really well early, and then it fell apart. And they're playing their worst at the biggest point of the season. So this time, the exact opposite. Kansas City had no answers defensively, none. I would argue, and I have argued, the Eagles left stuff on the field. They left meat on the bone. Could have been worse. I mean, they had no answers, Kansas City. They didn't know what to do other than stop Saquon, which they did a pretty good job. But again, at the expense of what? And that was what Howie envisioned. All right, if you stop Saquon, we'll just go this direction. And too often during the regular season, they couldn't do that. But in the postseason, they did it, and especially in the NFC Championship game. And And there's no coincidence. If you go back to the Eagles Super Bowl championship, it was eerily similar in the fact that, they played one sort of shaky game against Atlanta and escaped, and then they got hot against Minnesota and in the Super Bowl, just crazy hot. And the Rams game was the Atlanta game, right? They let them in it. They played better than they did in that Atlanta game, but they let them stay in the game. They let them have the football with a chance to win late in the game, similar to Atlanta, and were able to get out. And then they just turned it on. Very similar.
Well, doesn't that make it all the sweeter that they were able to do that in the biggest of stages? Because remember, I mean, we did talk about the concern with that as the season progressed and as the season went on, despite them continuing to win games. You remember the quote from Jalen Hurts, sometimes it doesn't get you until you get got, or whatever it was, something along those lines. And they turned it on, John. And
I love the people that think we're making it up the whole time. Oh, it was never an issue. It was never an issue.
Yeah, I laugh at that too. I mean, you win the Super Bowl doesn't mean that there was nothing that ever went wrong ever in the season.
The players said there was an issue. Forget about me. The players said there was an issue, including Jalen Hurts, as you pointed out. I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to play your best at the biggest time, and that's what the Eagles were able to do. And that, same thing happened in Super Bowl 52. They played their best in the biggest moments, and that's how you win championships. And that's kind of what happened.
John, on the podium after the Super Bowl victory, and I didn't catch this because I was on the postgame show. I caught it yesterday when I was doing some look back at some of the stuff that came out that I missed. At the podium, Nick Sirianni says, Kellen Moore, let's run it back. I have not heard any update yet on Kellen Moore. What have you heard through the grapevine on Kellen Moore? Is he looking? Is he taking my advice from Birds 365 and saying, wait a second, I don't know about this New Orleans job. I could go run one back and have a pick of the litter again next year with another Super Bowl ring.
No, 1,000% no. He's the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints. They'll let him celebrate, and all that kind of stuff. No, he's gone. Jeffrey said it. And understandably so. People, it's a nice thing.
3x salary increase.
It's a nice thing to say on the podium and all that kind of stuff in the moment, and giving credit to Kellen for what he accomplished in 1 year with this team. But no, I mean, he's going to be a head coach in the National Football League. Don't blame Kellen Moore. I mean, come on.
Him. I'm
not saying you. I'm trying to be preemptive for the fans. That's your goal when you get into this profession. And he's able to reach it, and good for him, and people should be happy for him. And again, didn't seem to hurt.
No, I mean, look, he's earned it. He came here and he won a Super Bowl here in his first year, by the way. And after having 2 number 1 offenses with Dak Prescott, he went from Dak to Justin Herbert, and then he comes and takes over the Eagles offense, and they marched their way to a Super Bowl in an 18-3 dominant season. John, pretty impressive stuff for what Kellen Moore did here. When you look back at it, obviously hindsight's always 20/20. It wasn't all perfect, and there was some stuff there that you wanted to be better, but boy, it worked out well for him and the Eagles. They're Super Bowl champs.
Yeah. And hopefully it won't, but hopefully it'll calm down people with the continuity thing, because they just proved he can do it. So it's not the end of the world.
You want to do it every year, though.
No, but I'm not saying that. It's just a realistic part of the industry. I mean, you have success, you move on. If you don't have success, you get fired, so you move on that way. I always spoke about it last off season. It's what happens. You don't reach expectations, especially in this town. It's not like anybody was. It's not like anybody was sitting out banging the drum to let's keep some continuity after last season. Let's give them a chance to grow in the position. Nobody banging the drum for that. So there's two ways it goes when you have the expectations of the Philadelphia Eagles. You get scapegoats when you don't reach them, or you lose them if you do reach them. And that's the reality of the situation. And it's better to be in that situation than another situation where you're just not good enough. And then you can keep whoever you want in perpetuity. You know, who cares? I'd rather be the Eagles. I'd rather be the team that everybody's trying to pilfer from, because that means you're really good. And there's no way to stop that. There's no way to stop that.
Well, there's a way to slow it down, and that's hire somebody that's not 38 years old and like one of these hot young candidates that the NFL world.
Well, they did it on defense, but there's only one Vic Fangio, and if you got the Vic Fangio on offense, by all means, let me know who that is.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're going to get that, but I mean, is there a guy out there that you feel good about that could be comparable to Kellen Moore? I mean, I think Kellen Moore. I mean, look, I'm proud. I'm happy for him. He's earned the upgrade in his career. He's earned the promotion that he got. Was
I'm hiring.
Answer the question. Was he that impressive?
No, I'm hiring Kevin Patullo. Bang, done, over. Simple to me.
I don't see head coach and Kevin Patullo. I mean, maybe he will in the future, but I don't see like head coach written all over Kevin Patullo. Do you think he'll be a future head coach one day?
If they win the Super Bowl next year, yeah.
What about
Kevin's very wait do you get to see Kevin? Because I think he's going to get the job, but we'll see.
What about Frank Reich?
No. Don't think so. You know, I don't know what Frank wants to do. He's obviously very close with Nick Sirianni. Nick considers him one of his mentors, and I've said it before, I don't like the setup of that, number one, but number two, I don't know how much he wants to do. As being a former head coach, I don't know if he wants to take a step back. You know, egos get involved and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, if he does, you know, he just wants to get back into coaching, I could see like a senior offensive role, but not the day-to-day grind of offensive coordinator. I can't see it. I can't see it.
I know you don't want to go back down that road, but isn't it? I'm not saying he's the same caliber, but isn't it the same? I mean, you went old on defense after being young on defense in the coordinator room.
No, well, I don't think Frank's at the stage of Vic.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he's as good, but I'm just saying.
No,
a veteran presence was a good thing on defense. It helped on defense.
Yeah, but I Nick Sirianni, you know, obviously in the moment you're just talking about, let's run it back, Kellen Moore. There's a lot of hyperbole going on.
Yeah, right. I got you.
But you know, Nick called Vic the best defensive coordinator in history. He might be. You know, to me, so there's a stand. He's not at that level. Number one, as an offensive coach. Number two, he's not at. You know, I don't think he's at Vic's point of his career where he says, "All right, I'm not going anywhere else." You know, Frank's not a Philadelphia guy. You know, he had his. He's from I don't know where he's from. New York. He went to Maryland. You know, he's a longtime Bills player. Much more history with them, obviously, you know, with the Colts. And now, if you look back to his coaching career, he actually started in Indianapolis before he came back to Indianapolis as the head coach. He's got a lot more history in other places. Like Vic is from here. He considers Philadelphia his home.
Yeah, right.
His family's around here. His mother lives near. His aging mother lives near where he can get to her. I don't think they're at the same stages of life. And again, you don't just replicate. All right, we got the best defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. That probably wasn't the right way to say it. You're right. I mean, Vic was like going home type of thing too late in his career. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Frank is like not at that phase.
No, not at that phase. And this is not his home. Yeah, even from a football sense. And I was here for 2 years.
Yeah.
And they wanted to run him out on a rail in the first of the 2 years. I mean, the revisionist history is crazy.
Well, I just don't. Doesn't he have a good relationship with the people in Philly still? I mean, I thought he did. I know. I know. Obviously, he has a good
They
relationship.
wanted to fire him. 2016, Doug saved his job.
So maybe he's got a good relationship with Doug. Not so much Howie.
Well, he's got a very good relationship with Nick. That's the correlation now. But yeah, they wanted to fire him after the 2016 season. And Doug was on, slippery ice at that point. And then they turned it on, won the Super Bowl, and then he was out because he won the Super Bowl. So yeah, there's a lot of revisionist history there. But the connection now is, he's really close to Nick Sirianni, and Nick values him greatly. But I even from that standpoint, I don't like the flipping of, and they did it in college with Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. So I'm not saying it can't work at Ohio State, but I don't like that dynamic. And of all the people Nick's closest to, Kevin would be number one, Kevin Patullo. So I don't know. I think it's his time. I think Nick now has the cachet to do what he wants, and I don't see why he'd want to go in a different direction. But
John, how long is I always think of this moment, or I always think of something you talked about on the show long before I was a host of this show, and you used to talk about how when Doug Peterson won the Super Bowl in Philadelphia, and you said, "Boy, that's a lifetime dispensation card," and it lasted 3 years.
I got that one wrong. People say I never say I'm wrong. I got that one wrong.
Right? It lasted 3 years, John. What type of dispensation card are we looking at with Nick Sirianni here? Because I still get the vibe that the owner
18
and the
months.
GM,
18 months.
Yeah, I think
you're not getting fired next year, but he's on the clock if they fail. If they're like one and done, say it's like the 2023 season, because the expectations are going to be massive. Already the early Super Bowl odds are out. Bet US, check it out. Eagles are number one. Yeah, Eagles are number one to repeat.
The golden era, baby.
Before anything ever happens. So the expectations are outrageous in this city. They're only getting more outrageous. And yeah, I mean, it ain't 3 years. Maybe 2. I learned from my mistakes.
You still get the feeling, like I said, that the owner and the GM, I mean, they don't look at this like
they think they're
the reason.
They're the reason.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. It oozes out of them, John. It oozes out of them.
It does ooze out of them.
I mean, you can't deny it.
They deserve a shitload of credit.
They do, but I'm just saying.
They believe that they are most responsible. If you're asking me, they believe. There's a lot of egos involved, and they believe that they're there. But and they are largely responsible. So I don't want to downplay their, and all of them, by the way.
But it's a little bit of a video game, like
Nick as well. I mean, the players are most responsible.
That's what I mean. The players, and I think the coaches as well. I mean, Vic Fangio, Clinton Hurt. How about Clinton Hurt pulling? He had more with Jomo playing well. He had a 3rd round developmental player who was playing safety 3 years ago at freaking Colgate at a Houston Christian with 5 pressures in the Super Bowl. I mean, the coaches did a great job. The players did a great job. The coaches did everybody from inside the locker room, in my opinion, is putting together a great team is great. That's a Madden mentality, though. You build a great team and you think that's it.
Oh, yeah. I talk about it in the draft all the time. So many people think you draft a good player or a bad player.
Right.
I mean, the player development is real. And you saw it this year with Vic, specifically on the defensive side. And his coaches as well, Clint Hurt, as you mentioned, Christian Parker, Bobby King, etc.
Right. Bobby King, man, she deserves some credit too.
Yeah.
Warren Burks played great.
Warren Burks was boy. You're talking about a story nobody talks about. I mean, I thought that was going to be a catastrophe.
Yeah, it wasn't at all. Credit to Warren.
Warren Burke was unbelievable. The consistency coming in for Nakobe Dean, who was having a great year. I mean, there's some magic stuff going on. There's always stuff. I know everybody's looking for Jason Kelce. I think Jason specifically took a step back on this one for a number of reasons. One, obviously, his brother's on the other team. Two, he didn't want to take away from this particular team winning it. And he finally tweeted about it and gave some of his thoughts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the human element of it is he's probably got to be a little bit. I mean, right? Isn't that only natural to
I don't think he is upset from that standpoint. Like, I think Carson Wentz was back in the day, but no, I don't think Jason was. I just
don't know if upset's the right word, but don't you look and you're like, man, I had a 14-year career. We got the job.
As soon as
I leave, the offensive line dominates again, and I'm not out there, man. That stinks. I mean,
I mean, this is before the season. Talking to Jason that when they signed Saquon, to his credit, when they signed Saquon, he was like, "Oh man," he was like, "Man, it's just in a joking fashion, saying maybe I will come back." And he had made up his mind, which was far more about his family and some of the millions of dollars being thrown at him in other ways, but. Yeah, he kind of knew that they had a chance to be special far before I think most people. And so, yeah, he's a very unique player, but I think he just took a step back because, like I said, A, his brother's in the game, and B, he didn't want, one thing happened, the New Heights show, they have their social media team and they put up a congratulations to the Eagles for winning the Super Bowl. And it was a bunch of pictures of Jason. Jason told him to take them down. And everybody's like, why'd you take it down? He took them down because he said he didn't want, he told the social media team, he was like, I didn't win it. They won it.
Right.
Celebrate them. He's a very unique guy. He's not, I don't think he's at all thinking about, other than I think he knew that this team had a chance to be special pretty early on. And probably earlier than most people. Because he knows Lane, he's so close to Lane and Landon and Jordan. He knows how good that offensive line is. So
yeah, no, I don't want to beat up on Kelce too much, but I think there's a human element there that it probably is a little hard. I'm not saying he was mad that they won, but there's no way you don't look yourself in the mirror, right, and go, well, that kind of stinks a little bit. If you're being honest with yourself, I'm not beating him up about it. If you're just being honest, I spent 14 years there. We won once. I leave, and then they win in the first year. I mean, that stinks. Jason, Dank Birdgang says, Jason was on WIP saying he takes solace in the fact he helped develop guys on the offensive line, and they're having success. I think that's a good.
Yeah, he's a big part of it. I mean, he was there all year. He's still a part of it, but he didn't want to take away. He spends more time at that freaking complex than half of the players. He did recede a little bit when the regular season started, but yeah, he's still part of the organization, part of the team.
I would assume he'll get a ring. I mean,
well, Jeffrey gives everybody rings.
That's what I mean. When I say that, people get mad. They're like, "Oh, he wasn't on the team." Now, I was at a law firm one time. All right, many years ago. Okay, I was at a law firm in Philly, and they were a sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, not their main sponsor at the time. They had a big fat ring with their name on it in the thing. They're like, yeah, Jeffrey Lurie gave us this. I'm like, okay, yeah, Jeffrey Lurie gives everybody a ring. Howard Eskin got a freaking ring in the first time around. So
Howard, everybody at WIP did, all the, whoever, because that's their flagship station.
Right.
And, they're business partners. So, yeah, that's the way he did it. I assume he's going to do it that way this time as well. Um, yeah, everybody asked if we get rings. We do not get rings.
I
Nor
should get
do
a
we.
ring. Come on,
Nor
Larry.
nor do we want rings. Man, I don't want a ring. And if I did have a ring, it'd be on eBay the next day.
I was going to say Johnny Mac walking into the pawn shop. No, that's a bad move to go to eBay. Just come right here on Bird 365. Say to the chat, all right, I got a ring. Who wants it? All right. And pawn it off to the chat.
Yeah.
That way.
I'm just making that's a money-making endeavor for me.
Yeah, I hear you.
So don't give me one, Eagles. Yeah, I'm joking. They're not giving us one.
All right, I got plenty. We have plenty of stuff to freaking talk about. But the one thing I do want before we move on from that situation, we talked about Kellen Moore a little bit and replacing Kellen Moore. You have Kevin Patullo as the leader in the clubhouse. Can you tell the people, we got a lot of questions, who the hell is Kevin Patullo? Give people a little bit of a background on Kevin Patullo and why you think he's going to be the man for the job.
Well, he's the associate head coach, passing game coordinator. The offense basically was work, and Kellen was in charge of putting together the game plan, but he worked very closely with Kellen and Nick. And those three were the ones who would meet all the time and talk about it and sort of develop the plan, not only not the game plan, but the plan for the game as far as, game management situations and all that kind of stuff. He's been Nick's right-hand man since the day he arrived, the guy who helps him. So some of these titles they come up with, associate head coach being one of them. He really is, does a lot of the, and you say, I don't see a head coach. There's nobody more prepared to be a head coach on this team than Kevin Patullo, just from the logistical standpoint.
But is he prepared to be the offensive coordinator of a roster that's ready to go to a Super Bowl again?
We'll
Never
see.
called plays. I mean,
no, but he's very close to people who did. No, you never know that.
I heard the same shit about Brian Johnson, and they scapegoated him faster than they could blink.
Well, and they'll scapegoat Kevin Patullo. I'm not saying they won't. I mean, he comes in with the same expectations. And if it's not up to speed, they'll scapegoat him quickly. And I know you talk about the dispensation for Nick. That might be an issue. You talk about speeding it up, firing this guy. That might speed that up.
Okay, let me give you a zoomed out view of this though. Okay. The Philadelphia Eagles elevated Brian Johnson from within 2 years ago. He was fired. Okay. Scapegoated. I don't think he should have been fired, but he was fired. They hired Kellen Moore from outside the organization, a guy with play calling history and experience. They won a Super Bowl. You're telling me they're going to go back down the route of hiring from within?
Yeah, why not? They hired
because last time they did that, it was a failure.
What was Shane Steichen's experience?
I don't know. Wasn't he a coordinator in LA before here?
Yeah, he was coordinator for 1 year. Didn't call plays. What was his play calling experience?
I guess none.
Exactly. People get hyper focused in the moment of, oh, this works, so you have to do it this way. No, a bunch of different things can work. Bunch of different things can work. Some people have a feel for it, some people don't. I said, Shane had a feel for it. Didn't know it until you saw it, because he didn't have experience doing it. But it worked. And in the case of Brian Johnson, I find it ironic they had the 8th ranked offense in the NFL in 2023. The 8th ranked offense in the NFL in 2024 during the regular season. They were just much better throwing the ball in 2023 than 2024. And everybody thought he was the shits. They thought he was the shits because they didn't win games. They didn't win games because they had the worst defense in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Now they had the 29th ranked passing offense. They won all these games because they had the number 1 ranked defense. And Kellen Moore's a head coach. It's a dumb league in a lot of ways.
I know. You're right about that.
So, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know that Kevin Patullo can call plays. He's never done it, but he's learned from some good play callers.
I'm going to be interested to see what I mean. Look, we just got done talking about how the owner and the GM think that they're responsible, which whatever, they're allowed to think whatever they want. And they're 2-time Super Bowl champions now. So I really can't push back on anything. All right. They've done a pretty good job.
Oh, yeah, you can. I push back all the time.
I'm wondering if Jeffrey Lurie is thinking, I don't know if I want to go back down the Kevin Patullo route. Nick, you might have earned a little bit of you can do your way, but no, I don't think I'm going to let you because it's my football team.
Well, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now, Jeffrey, if you're listening, I'm going to rip the shit out of you if you do that. Like, it's fine coming off a season like last year if you want to, and he denies it. You know, he calls himself basically a question asker, but I said
we all know what that means. Everybody's had someone of authority in their life.
Yeah, exactly. I point out all the time that you have to understand as your position, your questions are viewed as, oh, I better do this. So I do think Jeffrey needs to get more in touch with that reality and the difference in his power versus some other guy just sounding off, asking a question. But look, if you do what Nick did and you don't allow Nick to do what he wants to do, yeah, I'm going to rip the shit out of you.
Yeah. So you think Kevin Patullo is going to get that spot for Kellen Moore, going to be the new offensive coordinator?
I think so. But again, Nick might like to set up the way it was, and he wants Kevin. He might want Kevin as his right-hand man.
Right.
And he might want somebody else to do the day-to-day grind stuff. Because if he's doing that, he can't be his right-hand man anymore. So there's a little bit of a change from that perspective. But I will say, we talked to Kevin at the Super Bowl. Sure sounded like he wanted the job. Sounded like
I heard that interview. Yep. He's not going to look. I would wonder, you just said maybe Nick likes the setup. I would wonder if Kevin Patullo would be like, fuck you, I'm out of here if they pass over him right there and say, I know you want the upgrade after we won a Super Bowl, but I'm going to keep you right here and I'm going to bring somebody else in to get that upgrade.
Yeah, well, so a lot of things that have to be worked out. But yeah, if I were a betting man and they put it on Bet US, I'd go Kevin Patullo.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. One of our great viewers in here, John, commented, "That's a good article, Johnny Mac, to highlight the Philadelphia scapegoats. There's been a lot of them mesmerized. Not a bad idea right there."
Oh yeah. I mean, when this team doesn't, that they're not unique either. I mean, that happens everywhere. If you don't reach expectations, you're scapegoating people, and the Eagles have done it consistently.
Good question. Yeah, good question here by Josh B. talking about Kevin Patullo. How is Jalen's relationship with Kevin? That's what matters. I agree that matters definitely in a big way. Any insight on that, John?
I mean, what's Jalen's relationship with anybody?
Yeah, what's it with Kellen?
Yeah. What's it with?
I don't know if I didn't even see Jalen embrace Kellen after the Super Bowl. Maybe it was out there. Maybe it happened. Yeah. I didn't see it, but.
Well, if you see the team photos from the Super Bowl, the quarterbacks were photographed with Nick Sirianni, Kellen Moore, and Kevin Patullo.
No Doug Nussmeier?
And Doug. Sorry, I missed Doug. Sorry, Doug.
Doug's going to New Orleans with Kellen, isn't he?
Yeah, it might have been Nick. Might have not been in there. I have to look. Might have been Doug.
I didn't think Nick was in there. I thought it was.
Yeah, it was Doug. It was Doug, Kellen, and Kevin. But Kevin was definitely in there.
Good stuff there. So Kevin Patullo is in the leader.
By the way, that's going to be the interesting part of also. I think everyone assumes Doug is going with Kellen Moore, probably. Doug Nussmeier. Defensively, it's going to be interesting to see who he has in mind to be defensive coordinator. Maybe he's got some guy from his past that he's close to that won't affect the Eagles. But if he's looking at what happened this year, I'm looking at Clint Hurt, Bobby King, and Christian Parker and saying, all right, who do I want to be my defensive coordinator?
Right. I like Clint Hurt.
so they might lose somebody in that way because you can't block somebody now to be a coordinator upgrade.
Yeah,
So.
that's a struggle. And obviously Vic Fangio is not going anywhere. So I wonder how
No.
long Vic Fangio is going to go. How long do you think Vic Fangio will coach more?
He loves it. I mean, he's up there. He's getting up there. He's 66, I believe. Hopefully his health holds up. As long as he's healthy, I think he wants to continue coaching. He loves it. And yeah, they're in a nice situation there, man, because he is a special coach. For the first time in many years, you could say, who's the Eagles' best assistant coach? And you would always say Jeff Stoutland. I don't know if it's Jeff Stoutland anymore. That's how good Big Fangio is.
Pretty impressive stuff there, Johnny Mac. John, I want to give the people some days. All right, ready? You got 16 days until the NFL Scouting Combine. You have 72 days until the NFL Draft. All right, and then the Super Bowl. You got 362 days until the next Super Bowl. Okay, so those are a couple dates for you guys. 16 days out from the NFL Combine and 72 days out from the NFL Draft. I'm good with that. That 72 days feels like it's right around the corner. So we're going to be able to dive into all of that. John, what a beautiful season it was. What a great journey we've been on this show for the team, for everybody, for all of our great viewers, all the development the show's had in the last couple of months. I'm ready for some off-season talk. I love off-season content, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, I like off-season better than in-season. I say it all the time.
Yeah, you do say that. Yep.
Because I'm a football wonk, so to speak. I like it much more than in season. I love the machinations of free agency and the draft and everything leading into it. And by the way, it's fun to cover Howie Roseman because he is so good at it and he is so ahead of the curve at stuff. So you can watch the Eagles and pretty much figure out where the rest of the league is going because they always seem to be ahead of a step or two ahead. So, yeah, I would say stay tuned. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Howie's already dropped some hints. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be as splashy. Yep. Doesn't have as many assets, but he'll do shit, man. And if there's an opportunity to get Myles Garrett, he'll be in it.
Yeah, we'll see about that one. One number I forgot, and I want to thank Deshae Shavers in the chat for bringing that up. 29 days away from free agency.
Yeah.
All right. So it'll be 29 days and maybe like 29 days. And I want to say 12 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 hours because I think it's 4 p.m. on that March 12th. So you got 16 days till the combine, 29 days till free agency, and 72 days till the NFL draft. You guys are going nowhere on Birds 365, baby. Locked in because we got a great offseason ahead of us, which is really great stuff, Johnny Mac. John, any other final thoughts, man? We got a bunch of topics to kick around. I'm going to get to a couple super chats, but just on the things that we just discussed, any other thing you want to get out there for the great people?
No, we'll talk about free agency coming up plenty, I'm sure, but it's such a cutthroat league. Like Milton Williams made a lot of money on Super Bowl Sunday. And Josh Sweat made a lot of money on Super Bowl Sunday. And it's like you want them to play at their highest level on the biggest stage, and then you're like, that upsets the apple cart because there are a lot of dumb teams in the NFL. And I'm not saying that to disengage that Milton's a very good player. Josh is a very good player. But they're going to get paid more than they should because of their Super Bowl performance. And this has been going on for years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dumb people in this league
who earn some cash on Sunday, man.
Yeah. Who look at one game and say, I need that guy, instead of looking at the whole sort of picture. And that doesn't help the Eagles from the standpoint of trying to keep as much of it together as possible. But yeah, to have those two players specifically And I don't even I have a if there's one guy I would bet on that wouldn't be back of the Eagles free agents, it would be
Would
Josh.
or wouldn't?
Wouldn't. It
Wouldn't.
would be Josh. I get the feeling the Eagles want to get younger, want to move on,
I
want to
agree.
get more cost effective.
Yep. I had the same thought process with Sweat. I thought even if even if they wanted to tango, I don't think he's the right player that they would go for. He's 28, he's got the knee problems, he's an older guy. Now, Milton, he's interesting. I was going to ask you, we'll do, you know what, we'll do this after the break because I want to get into the free agents. And, you know, you got Becton, you have Gainwell, you have Fred Johnson, some of those guys. And then you also have Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Isaiah Rogers, Avante Maddox is probably gone, Brandon Graham, Oren Burks. Is Oren Burks somebody you want to bring back, John, with Nakobe Dean's injury? You know, there's a lot of interesting ones there. So we'll talk about them when we get back from the break. I do want to get to a couple of our super chats. Thank you all right, for the super chats, for all the likes. Hit that like button this morning. We are, 2 days removed from the Eagles winning their second Super Bowl in franchise history. We are 3 days out from the parade on Broad Street on Friday. All right, who is going to the parade? I know some of our great people are going to the parade. Real Zeal checks in. Everyone who yelled at their TV, run the ball the last 20 years has been vindicated. Football spiked. Yes, Zeal. Yes.
Well, on Sunday, the running back ran for 2.3 yards per carry.
Yeah, but the team was a running team all year, and they won the Super Bowl against the odds, John. How many times have I heard you and everybody else say, in the modern NFL, you have to pass to win?
Oh, I thought he said on Sunday. All right.
Well, he did
I
say
I thought he said on Sunday. Well, I thought I heard you say on Sunday. That's what I'm saying. I thought he meant because of that game. I'm like, that's not the game to point to. No, the whole season. Yeah, that's fine. That's not. You know, I still think it's not. I mean, the Eagles have been able to run the ball the entire Nick Sirianni era. They have been one of the top running teams in the NFL. They've been able to run the ball. What you just went through was the best running season of all time by a running back.
right.
Literally 2,500, whatever it ended up being, 2,500 yards. I would not. That's what, who is it? The Real Zeal? That's what's called an outlier. I wouldn't count on that again next year. I'm going to bet the under. I said that yesterday. If you're wise and want to make some money, I would bet the under. Same thing with Hassan Reddick, his historic season. I told everybody that offseason, do not expect that again. Good player next season. Do not expect that again. So spike the football, enjoy your vindication, just be sensible about it.
Yeah.
Ain't happening again.
Jason A-Team checks in. A lot of spiking going on. He says, I'm just spiking the football for the hell of it because J-Max said so. LOL. I love it, A-Team. You can do that, brother. You're Super Bowl champ, all right?
I spiked it over big. I'm spiking it over big, man. Where are all those Spagnuolo people?
I'm spiking it over the no-holes defense, which I dubbed the name for them in August. John, somebody sent me the clip of me in August on the National Football
Where are the
Show.
Spags people?
Well, here's what I say about Spags. That one blitz, I mean, he got beat in the game. Let's be real. He got burnt in the game, in fact. But that one blitz that he forced the interception on, John, that was such a good blitz. That Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, both of them didn't block somebody. Both of them.
Yeah, Landon didn't have a good game.
Cam Jurgens was standing there.
You know, what's
I
interesting.
went right around him. I'm like, I've never seen Cam Jurgens not block somebody like that in my life.
It's interesting. You know, I think those guys really, obviously they didn't run the ball well. So nobody had a good game when it came to, except for Lane and Jordan. They always have good games. Cam and Landon did not play well to their typical standard. I think they were hurt.
Yeah, right.
And they fought through it, but they were hurt. Which is interesting because in pass protection, for the most part, they held up very well. Yeah, you get caught when you blitz. So I say the same thing about Flores. When you blitz as much as those guys do, you're going to get caught. Who cares? But, you know, there's more to it than that. And I think of all, like most Philly fans, and we know because I've been doing this show for years and been doing other shows for years prior to that. All they talking about for years was blitz, 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 blitz. You got to blitz, you got to blitz, blitz, blitz. And that's what they want. And you just saw what you need. And what you need is 4-man pressure so you don't have to blitz. That's what every defensive coordinator should be striving for. Every single one of them. Yeah. But, that said, if you can't get home with 4, then you have to do some different things. But don't conflate it with success overall. And by the way, Spags is a very good defensive coordinator. Just not Vic Fangio. And he never was.
And you can see why when Vic's scheme works, boy, it is tough. I mean, he had Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and I've used the phrase in jail. I mean, they couldn't do shit. Sasha R checks in. John, from the free agents below, which do you think we keep? All right, wait, Sasha. I'm not going to ask that yet because that's my topic after the break. All right, so thank you, Sasha. I'm going to get to that. I got the list of free agents. I'm going to have John give me a kind of a rundown on each one and what he thinks. All right, so we'll get to that in just a second, Sasha. 40-6. All right, his name used to be 41-33, if you remember. He says no more 41-33. Don't see Kellen getting a first-time DC. I think he will look to someone with experience. Champ Zander, thank God for Jacob saving me from WIP. Thank God for you for being here, brother. We appreciate you, man. What do you think about what he said there about Kellen, first-time DC?
Yeah, again, it's going to be interesting. I mean, he was on a lot of good teams in Dallas, and he had a lot of relationships with people before he came to Philadelphia, and he didn't have many relationships with the people he came here with, Doug Nussmeier, Cavallero, and that's it. So, he's only been with these people for a year, so maybe he's got somebody in his head that he wants. But I'm just saying, if he sat back and watched this season and watched how effective this defense was, I would maybe want to tap into that. So it's going to be interesting to see which way he goes. But, yeah, comfort's a big thing. And he's, I'll tell you what, though, after watching that Vic Fangio defense, I'd be hiring one of those 3 guys.
Yeah, I would too. And I'm telling you right now, John, you might not be ready to admit it. Kellen listened to Birds 365 in the morning. Yes, he woke up after not getting any sleep, and he listened to Birds 365, and he said, Zander Krause is right. I'm calling the Saints, and they're doubling my offer right now because I ain't going to that shitty organization without life-changing money. We'll see what Kellen Moore does. Brian Fleming says, emailed you some pics of the Sellies. Hey, Brian, I just looked at them when I saw your super chat come over. Great pictures. Looks like you had a great seat for the game, brother. Our buddy Brian Fleming, John, one of our great viewers here on Birds 365, one of our great members on JAKIB Sports, was down in New Orleans for the game in the stadium. So well done, Brian. Brian, I'll show them up on Zander time, all right, today. So good stuff, man. Thank you so much. Let's get to our commercial break, John. When we come back, talk some free agency. We're going to talk some Howie Roseman. We're going to talk some Nick Sirianni. We're going to talk the golden era. The golden era. Is it here, John? Is it here in Philly, or will you go curmudgeon on me and say, no chance? It's not happening. Let's see what happens.
By the way, the hint, sees, I've been saying it already before they won. What do you mean, curmudgeon? I'm the one who's been saying it.
I know. I'm just messing with you. All right, let's get to our commercial break. We appreciate all you guys for being here. We got a great crowd in here as always. Hit that like button. All right, hit that like button. 3 days out from the parade, 16 days out from the combine, 29 days out from free agency, and 72 days away from the NFL draft. Plenty to talk about here on Birds 365. Before I get to the break, let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Yes, you are no longer betting on football. You got to bet on baseball and basketball and hockey and all the other sports right now. So go check them out right now, betus.com.pa. Use that promo code YouTube150. Get 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit. Get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. We'll be right back on Birds 365.
The following is a real testimonial